Everybody, welcome back to the Spurs 9501 podcast. This is Cam in Georgia and Ray in London. We haven't had a joint video for a long time, but we thought we needed to do one after the disgraceful performance against Wolves. I've got Cam with me. Cam, how you been doing?
Well, I thought today was going to be an excellent day. We'll see Arsenal maybe get held by Burnley. I knew that wouldn't happen, but you could always hope. And we'll see Chelsea get hammered, and Spurs take 3 points. Everything went wrong, buddy.
Yeah,
Everything went wrong.
it was
Bad
a
day.
pretty. It
Bad
was a
day.
really bad day today, but we don't care about Arsenal or Chelsea. Let's talk about Tottenham. I think, I didn't get to see the match, but I wanted to get your views on it. Let's just talk about the couple of changes that Porro and Idoji weren't available, so Davies and Royale came in. What do you
Mhm.
think of the changes that were made?
I think Davies probably did better than Emerson on the right. Emerson would have struggling definitely with the formation and what was expected of him. But I mean, when you have Van der Ven and you have what's his name,
Romero.
Romero at the back, you're pretty solid, right? You expect to be
Mm.
pretty solid. And whilst people will pick on Emerson and maybe Davies being a bit weak, I didn't think Davies was that weak. Our problem was the midfield. It was appalling decision. I mean, really, if you look at the bench, look at what we had on the bench. We had Benton
But first,
Cole.
but
All
first of
right,
all, who
sorry,
was the starting midfield? It was Bissouma, Sarr, and Madison. Isn't
Madison.
that our top starting? That's when we in the first 10 games when we did really well. That was our starting midfield. So that's our best midfield, isn't it?
That was because Benton Cole was injured. Lo
Mm.
Celso was coming back from injury. Højbjerg, I thought, has done much better than most of the other two holding midfielders, at least in the last few since he's been asked to come in. And yeah, I mean, it might have been our strength. The reason why it was so good is because Madison was on top four, which he isn't. Yeah, he has not recovered his full match fitness yet.
Yep.
Um, and excuse me, Saar has been consistent. And I thought Saar was very pretty consistent today as well. Our biggest problem is Basuma, and it has been since we've signed him. I don't know why we signed him because he scored one wonder goal against us when he was at Brighton. And this is how Tottenham roll, don't they? They see players play one good game like we did with Ndombele and a few others, and well, we must have that player, then maybe we can get him for cheap. And we just got found out.
But didn't Bissouma, when he was playing for Brighton, was putting in some really good performances against top Premier League? Is it something about Tottenham that brings the worst out of players? Why has he regressed so much?
Well, I mean, let's talk about today's game.
Yep.
His job is to break up play, hold the ball, and pass it. Our game is a very much under Postecoglou is a quick-paced passing game, right? Squeeze up, have lots of space behind, expect the pace of Romero and Van der Ven to get back and cover, right?
Yep.
And Vicario to sweep when needed. Yeah, that's how we play. Quite up front, hold the ball. The amount of times that Basuma got caught on the ball and lost the ball. Obviously, the second one he gave away the goal. I think the corner for the first goal, before the corner, Basuma was again involved in getting the ball up there, getting the first corner. Oh no, getting behind the loss, and he was so ponderous on the ball, very slow on the ball. That's not Tottenham's game. The idea was to pass it around. He held on to it for too long. He couldn't hold the ball. They saw him as the weakest link, took the ball off him every time. I think he probably lost the ball at least 3 to 4 times more than he kept the ball or found or won the ball, if you see what I mean, which is what his job was. And that weak link in the midfield, basically, we had no midfield, and our defense was being overrun. I mean, we had a weakened defense, obviously, but we were being completely overrun.
So
I
was
mean,
that the problem? The defense wasn't protected by the midfield. Is that the main problem?
I think that's one of the main problems. Also, I think that the tactics. I think that Gary O'Neill is one of the most highly underrated managers in the Premier League by a long shot. And everyone goes on about how great Postecoglou is, but I mean, look at that guy. He's got hardly any players. They sold most of their top players. They brought nobody in, and yet they've turned over some of the biggest teams. And he knows how to set out a team, how to set out a formation that negates us. We just had no answers to it. Absolutely no answers to it. I mean, we're lucky to go in at 1-0 on the first half. I mean, the first goal that they got was obviously again. I blame Bissouma for much earlier on for the ball being done. I know that Richarlison gave away a stupid corner. He didn't need to touch it. There was no one near him. And then they did what every team does. which is they put pressure on your keeper who can't handle corners. I still don't understand why that's not being worked on. They can't handle corners, slaps around, put a player next to him, and he completely loses it. Then all the team then don't know who they have to mark. And you had the one player who's only scored one goal so far for Brighton, Edgar, that pops up and has a completely free header. I don't know if you saw that.
Who should have been marking him?
Son was near him. We lost him immediately. But I mean, you think you got Van der Ven, you got Romero, some of your top players are both coming right in near the penalty spot. Nobody near the guy. Nobody near the guy. Yeah, header was so good. Beccario drew it to the spot, couldn't move. You got to think how in our box that he unchallenged header like that with all the time in the world to place it is a real concern, isn't it?
It is a real concern. So let me ask you about the defensive side of Tottenham's playing. We know how exciting Ange and all that is going forward, but in terms of the defensive side of things, are we actually weaker than what we were last year? What do you think?
I think that we started off very well in the beginning of the season, first 10 games, and I mean it's like a new team that comes up. They play in a way that confuses the other teams, and they do really well. The next season they get relegated. Well, the first 10 games we did do very well. We had some injuries after that, but I think most of the teams have sussed us out. So if you look at the Everton game and you look at this game and these kind of teams which don't open up. So if we're playing City, if we're playing at some of those other expensive teams, we'll find more space to play our game because they're going to attack us. Yeah. But I mean, Wolves' game was very straightforward. They had 10 players behind the ball. When all we did is tiki-taka it on the outside of their box over and over again. There was no way through for anybody. And bam, one break, and they I mean, this game, I tell you, could have at least been 4-5-1 to Wolves.
Wow.
There's only one team that deserved to win this game, and it wasn't Tottenham Hotspurs. It was Wolves. They deserved to win that, and they rightly deserved to win it. We had Was Ange Postecoglou out tacticked by Gary O'Neill then? Completely. Oh, completely.
Explain that. Explain how he's out tacticked.
Well, Ange plays one way. Ange has one tactic, right? Yeah, he didn't have his two players at the on the wings. You know, the left back and the right back.
Udogie and Porro.
Yeah. So that's going to change it a bit, and I'm not sure that the other two could really fulfill that role. But in that case, play it differently. I mean, like you said, you know, you put Van der Ven on that side, put Emerson in the middle. You could have bought somebody else in, you know, change
Dragusin, he bought Dragusin and he's not playing him now. I don't understand.
Exactly. There's another thing.
This is the ideal time to play him in the middle with
when you got two players
on the left.
Absolutely. So that was a bit of a head scratcher. Secondly, you've got your best player, probably one of the best midfielders in the country, albeit he's still coming back from fitness in Bentancur out over Basuma. I mean, that's another head scratcher. But his tactics were completely overshadowed by Gary O'Neill because his view was obviously rush at them, play how you play through Richarlison, Son on the left, Kulusevski on the right, keep attacking, and they just absorbed it. So we had a lot of corners. I believe we had 10 corners to their 4. They scored 1 goal from a corner. I think we only, of our 10 corners, had the ball hit a Tottenham head once. Just once. Of all the crosses that were put in, I think there was only one that we actually managed to get because they just blasted them back out. And there was very little pressure on the Wolves goal. We had a lot of shots that go over. Kulusevski had a great chance to score a second. I'll give him that. But there was no pressure on the goal. Richarlison was non-existent. Son was non-existent. And they were marked out of the game. They were completely taken out of the game. And every time Wolves went forward, they looked like they were going to score. So, yeah, I believe they completely out-tacticked Ange. But the other thing, Ray, just to say on this, is the fact that Ange had no answer. It was not until the 65th minute or 66th minute that he even thought about changing it. Go on.
Well, this is coming back to my next question is, now Tottenham play a certain way. There's no plan B, it's just plan A and more of plan A. Do you think most of the other teams in the Premier League have worked out the way we play and they just found ways to counter it and nullify everything we do? Or did we just play badly?
I would play very badly as well. I mean,
let me ask you a question. If Tottenham played the way they were playing in the first 10 games of the season, and Wolves played their best. Who should have won this match?
Wolves.
Even if we play the best we can, we can't beat Wolves. Is that what you're saying?
Because the tactics were spot on. They were productive. They were hardworking. They knew exactly what was coming at them. They completely negated it. They didn't let anything in the box. Very few chances that were actually given. And when they attacked with ferocity that actually put the fear of God amongst us. I mean, that is a problem. You know, we can't handle that these teams that they come charging at you. And I believe all day and every day they would have won it. They've done the double over us now, right? And they'll probably do the double again. I mean, obviously, no one thinks Wolves is going down. Look at their players compared to our players.
Well, this is what I need to ask you a question, really. So let's look at one of their forward players, Pedro Neto. Would you take him at Tottenham next season?
I think that with our manager, I don't believe that manager can get the best out of him, to be honest. I mean, you know, think about today. I know he has a score, but Timo Werner was doing really well in the team when he came in with that pace. What he's been running, he's been staying on side. He's done some good work, right? Now he doesn't get a game. When he came on, we looked like we were going to attack a bit more. And there are some real issues going on here. So no, I don't think anybody's gonna do anything better. Our biggest problem is we possess the ball a lot. And I know last few seasons of the Mourinho and under Conte, we weren't having much of the possession. Now we get all the possession, but what do we do with it? I think we had 60-odd% of the possession and lost the game. What would you rather have? 30% of the possession and win the game?
Yep. So what is the real problem here then? We've got good players at the back. Romero's World Cup winner. We've got Van der Ven, who's a top-class player. When Udogie and Porro there, we've got good players. Is it just the fact that because we're missing key players, they can't play to the same level and it drops so much that they can't win? Or what is the reason that teams like Wolves are coming and Brighton, like last week, nearly beat us? Why are teams coming and outplaying Tottenham now?
Well, I think the lower teams have sussed it out what they're going to do. They stick to their game plan, 10 behind the ball and to hit us on the break.
But is that what Wolves did today?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Low block. You can't play against
5 and 3 right there every time Tottenham got the ball. And like we did, as we've been doing for months on end, passing it around outside their box endlessly. I mean, look at it this way. So we played a lot of teams where we've been like 2-1 up. Everton's a prime example. We were 2-1 up, you know, and there's like 5 minutes left to go, 3 minutes left to go. I mean, Tottenham have conceded, I think, lost the most points in the stoppage time of any team. What do the teams do? They hoof it up and they attack, take shots, pot shots, do whatever, right? We're losing. We're in, there's 4 minutes of extra time or whatever it was, 5 minutes, whatever. And we're just still playing out from the back. Still playing out from the back.
There's no urgency.
I mean, other teams are going crazy on us. We're just playing out from the back. I think we had one chance in those 4 or 5 minutes. And everyone knew we weren't going to score, and nothing was going to happen. It was absolutely...
Well, we should have scored with that header from... Ben Davies should have scored from that header at the end, shouldn't he?
Yeah, he should have done. I mean, but, you know, what can you say? I mean, he should have done. But then they should have had about another 6 goals too.
Yeah. Let me ask you about one of your favourite players, Richarlison. How did he do?
I even know he was on the pitch most of the time, to be honest. It's probably one of his worst performances he's had since he's supposed to allegedly have hit form. Not really anything from him today. We could argue he didn't get the service because Maddison's not the same player by any stretch. Son put in a few balls, but they would just had it all sussed. I mean, every time the balls went in, it went to a Wolves player. Every time. We had 5 in the box. But when you put in a ball in and there's 5 to 6 players from the opposition in the box, you've got to be pretty damn good.
But this is the same Wolves team that lost last week at home to, I don't remember who, but they lost at home to somebody. 2-0. Luton, was it, or something? I don't know.
Brentford.
They lost 2-0 at home to Brentford and they come to Tottenham and win 2-1. What's going on here?
It's worrying, isn't it? Because we're going to Brentford soon, aren't we?
Yeah.
I mean...
No, but how can they be so bad as to lose to Brentford, who down the bottom just lost 4-1 today? They lost 2-0 at home to Brentford, and then they come to our place and they win 2-1. It's just like, I think if you do the Wolves tactics on Wolves, they can't cope either. So
no, they probably can't. But the point is they know exactly what's going to happen at Tottenham, and that is we have one tactic. We don't play any differently.
This is the frustrating thing for me.
Go on.
1 second, Cam. This is the frustrating thing for me is when you know teams are going to come and play a low block, you just play the same way you always play. Why can't you mix it up a bit and change it so that they put off their plans are put out and they don't see the same way. They see something different, so they don't know how to cope.
Well, top teams got to adapt their tactics to who they're playing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if we play exactly the same way against Sheffield United as we do against Manchester City, then it's going to be potluck what happens. We could lose against Manchester City 9-0 and probably beat Sheffield United 1-0. But you got to adjust your tactics. They're different teams, different players, different styles. And that's what I don't see here at Spurs.
So what you're saying to me is that Ange just is not able to adjust his tactics at all, depending on the opponent. It's just one way we play and that's it.
The problem is here, right? And the problem is that first season when we had Conte, he knocked us out of every single cup and got us into the fourth spot. We were very happy. That was a great achievement in the Champions League, out of the FA Cup, out of the Carabao Cup, and even out of the European Conference Cup, which was probably our best chance of winning a trophy that we've had in the last 20 years, you know? Out of every cup right now, bombed out of the FA Cup, bombed out of the Carabao Cup. Yeah, League Cup, bombed out. Well, we were never in Europe anyway. So you've got a manager who's all he's got is the Premier League, right? And you're losing at home to Wolves.
So
that is the question. I mean, what happened if we were in playing cup games as well and other things, and in Europe and in the FA Cup? What does that mean? We'll be in the bottom three? I mean, you know, what is going on here?
Yeah, so let me ask you the question: is this manager overrated? Is he an overrated manager and now he's being found out, or is it just a bad game and these things happen? What's your view on that?
I could see that he was very upset. I mean, he didn't celebrate the goal. He knew that this was not good, and I think that has he been found out? Well, probably time will tell, and we'll know. I mean, is Gary O'Neill a better manager? Definitely, without a doubt in my mind. Just look at the resources he's got and look at the resources we've got.
Yeah, this is a one-off game, Cam. One-off games can go anyway, especially in the Premier League.
Wolves were the favourite to go down because they sold all their players. I believe they didn't sign hardly anybody. Right?
Yeah, that's why Lopetegui left, isn't it? Because they couldn't sign anybody.
We're favourite to go down. They're now what, 8th, 7th, 9th, whatever. I know they're not. They've got as many, but they got 36, 37 points, something like that. I don't know what they've got, but. We've got 47. I mean, yeah, but look at what we've got, resources we've got, resources they've got.
Yeah, let me ask you a question. Why is Dragusin not getting a look in here? What's the issue there? He turned Bayern Munich down for us, and we're not playing him. What's the issue?
I don't know. That's a really good question. I mean, why is he not being played? Is it
play him at right back? He can play at right back, so play him at right back instead of Emerson Royale at right back.
That was a disgraceful decision. I thought Emerson Royale, when he deputized for Romero, did pretty well. Today at right back, absolutely innocuous. Got found out many times. And I mean, Basuma provided him zero cover too, to be honest with you. Yeah. No cover whatsoever on that. That's awful. So should we have had Dragusin? Maybe. I mean, I think if I was Dragusin, I was glad I didn't get to play in this game because it was an embarrassment.
Okay, Cam, that's really good. Let's wrap it up now. What's your thoughts on whether you think we can still get top four or not?
We're going to go away to Liverpool, away to Manchester City. We've got to go away to Aston Villa, and we've got Arsenal at home. So count 4 losses there right now.
We're home to Man City, by the way.
Sorry, home to Manchester City.
Away to Chelsea as well, which we never win.
Away to Chelsea as well, which we'll never win. Even if Chelsea lost every single game this season, they would still beat us. Yeah. So there you go. 5 potential losses already. Will we beat Luton away in the way that they're playing? I'm not sure, especially since last time we couldn't hardly beat them then. So I think that we are going to see a pattern of win 2, lose 2, win 2, lose 2. And we'll probably end up, maybe if we're lucky, in a Europa Cup spot.
So 6th or 7th, yeah. Okay, Cam, excellent. Thank you very much for that. You know, we're going to wrap it up now. Final thoughts before we close the podcast?
Whoever said that they thought we were contenders to win the Premier League must be living in an alternate universe. All I can say, but you know, stick with it. We're Spurs fans. We should be used to defeat and misery. So I hope everybody's happy and wallowing in the misery.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. Let's be miserable together.
Excellent. Thank you. Bye-bye.